We have a question out here. What's the mold made out of? The molds are made out of graphite. So there are a lot of different materials that we can use on the glass to shape it. If you've seen a demonstration here throughout the day, we use cherry wood. You can use newspaper. You can use graphite, stainless steel. As long as it's not going to melt, you can't use it. Or like a plastic or a resin, we won't really use. I know some glass blowers that will use Teflon to shape the glass, but that gives off horrible vapors. So it can be used to shape the glass, but the more natural it is, the better it is for your health. Right? So there are a lot of materials. I mean, you know, a lot of glass blowers will gravitate towards one thing, whether it's making the glass, making their own tools, making even their own equipment, or their own colored glass. So there's really a big world out there when we're talking about glass making. Not only are you making the glass, but you can make other materials for yourself, like the equipment or your tools. Fred had these specially made for himself, and they are made out of that graphite. The graphite is a wonderful tool. This isn't, it is graphite, but it's not in the sense that you'd use it as a pencil. You could pick up this block and probably draw on a piece of paper, but that's not what we'll use it for. It's a little tougher. If we were to put this in an oven and heat it up, it would eventually fall apart. So we'll keep it at a nice temperature, not too high for too long, because we don't want the graphite to lose any of that beautiful texture that's been carved into it. So they do deteriorate over time, but I found that as long as you treat your mold right, it won't happen quite as quickly as with metal molds that we have. We have cast aluminum molds that we can use, or aluminum, depending where you're from, right? We also have bronze, that type of thing. So we're using graphite here tonight. Question, yeah? Yeah, so we are using clear glass up here for this demonstration, but of course we know there are many, many different colors of glass. Scientists or even glass makers will add different metallic compounds to clear glass and melt it down. These are in the form of oxides, sulfides, or chlorides. I'm sure you've seen a beautiful ruby-colored glass that's made with gold chloride. I know a few of the recipes, but I haven't quite dabbled too much in the science. So if you have a favorite color and are dying to know what metal oxide was used, I could probably shout one out. So what's your favorite color? Pink, you got it, gold chloride. I like purple, so that's manganese. Yep. Greens can come from iron oxide or chromium. The list goes on. Of course, these are more specific than the metals I'm shouting out at you. Yeah. Good. So I think they just popped one out of the mold. We'll get a closer view at an object once he's done with it. But ladling, you know, it almost looks easy the way Fred is doing it. It is very, very heavy though, very hot. You'll notice they are making sure to clip the glass away. They might even take the glass and push it up onto the ladle so that it doesn't fall into the piece itself. Because any trail will refract. It will bend the light and probably ruin the optical effect that Fred is looking for. All right, so our question was, if you wanted clear glass to reflect back a rainbow, how would you do it? Right now, we have a beautiful piece on display in the museum in our Crystal City Gallery. It is the largest punch bowl in the United States. To create that, they used lead crystal. This is an optically pure type of glass. Unlike the soda lime glass that we're using, it has very little to no iron oxide in it, which turns the glass green. That lead crystal is also softer to shape when it's hot, also softer to shape when it's cold, because we can cold cut the glass, shape it, bevel it, and get those beautiful rainbows that you think of when you look at lead crystal glass. Of course, instead of just having silica, soda ash, and limestone with lead crystal, they add lead. Right. So we can get it that way. There's a type of glass called dichroic glass. It is glass that's been made in a vacuum seal, layers of silica sealed with layers of metal. That's what we think of really glittery metallic glass. You find it in a lot of pendants or jewelry, but yeah, dichroic. I hope I answered that question to their liking. Perfect. Yeah. All right. So welcome to those of you joining us on our live stream, and welcome to those of you just joining us here at Corning Museum of Glass. We have a big party going on, live music, beverages, and food. So we have the whole team up here. I'll introduce them once again if you don't know already. We've got Fred Kahl, Constantine, Jerry, Ross, George, Tom, and Aaron all on the stage, and my name is Heather if you have any questions. It goes for the live streamers too. There we go. Yeah, so the question was about glow-in-the-dark glass. I've been told that glow-in-the-dark glass is made with rare earth metals. We think of Vaseline glass or uranium glass. Those glow underneath of a black light. I have been told that once glass is solid and cold, you know, it's an amorphous solid, once it is stopped moving, it is done moving. So none of those elements are really going to seep out and into the atmosphere around them. We know uranium is radioactive, so it's not probably something you really want to eat out of, but none of those things really move around once the glass is cold. I've worked with glow-in-the-dark glass, and a lot of the time it comes in a powder form, so that's something you don't want to breathe. You want to make sure you have really good ventilation, your face is covered, and then people normally sieve that on or roll into it, which can create little puffs of glass in the air. We are known as the Crystal City, so we have a lot of glass cutters here. Glass blowers would make the blanks, glass cutters would cut into those blanks, and then give you those beautiful patterns in glass. A lot of those old glass cutters, they died because of silicosis. Glass is a very, very dangerous material to breathe in. Once it is in your lungs, you cannot expel it. So that's why a lot of people passed. Here at Corning Museum of Glass, we are working in the state-of-the-art, a very nice hot shop, I'll say that, state-of-the-art hot shop. The catwalk here, where people are sitting and where you can walk freely, that is a hood. So it's pulling all of the air, all of the fumes coming off of the furnace, and all of the particulates in the air and pushing that outside. So we are very, very safe up here. We don't really have to worry about that. We even have a special booth for our powdered glass if we ever want to use it. Yeah, great question though. I'll come over to this side. All right, so we are making components. I'm sure many of you can see the piece we have right here. This piece, again, it weighs over 60 pounds, and they'll end up taking all of these components that Fred is ladling out right now and sticking them onto a punty or a post. Then they can have a base or a structure to work off of, gluing hot pieces of glass together. Hot glass only sticks to other hot materials. Well, that's how they are going to fuse the piece together. Now, this is what makes it really technically difficult. Now, hot glass moves around. It's all going to be off of the end of a blowpipe, which they're turning into the punty. So we've got a lot of people up here with gloves. Going to be able to muscle this glass around, heft it up, and make sure that it's not cooling down too quickly. Beautiful shot there by the AV team. You can really see that texture in the graphite mold that Fred is ladling into. Looks like we have Ross on the far end making that punty. So the punty is a temporary handle. It's how they'll hold on to the glass and add all these different components together. Now, in order for the punty to work, it needs to be the right temperature. It needs to be hot enough and strong enough to hold on to this piece, but cold enough to break free once Fred is done with it. We also have a lot of torches up here. I was asked about the high-powered torch. Of course, that is propane assisted by oxygen. We also have just a simple propane torch up here. They're both tools that Fred will use to control the temperature of the glass. And we never want this piece of glass to drop below 900 degrees Fahrenheit or 550 Celsius. If it does, it will crack and break. So we'll be able to use that torch to really maintain that temperature. Now, these are really, really thick pieces of glass, though, so they'll be able to stay hotter longer. It's not like making a paper-thin goblet where you have to be very quick in and out of the heat. These pieces of glass should maintain their temperature for quite a while. So again, welcome to those of you here. Yeah, question? Sure. The ovens, the furnaces, more specifically our reheating furnaces are fueled by natural gas and forced air. A question that goes along with that is, do we turn the furnaces off at night? And we do turn off the reheating furnaces every night. There is no need for them to be up to temperature simply because there is no glass inside of them. All of the molten glass resides in the center of the stage in our melting furnace. This furnace holds about 1,000 pounds of clear glass. So right now, again, that's a little hotter at 2275, 2,275 degrees Fahrenheit. This makes the glass more liquidy. It'll allow the glass to really fill in the mold and take in its oppression. That furnace has been running since January of 2015. And we hope to get another 6 years out of it before we have to do any maintenance. Oh yeah, there we go. He's picked up, oh, yeah, let's give George a round of applause. We'll get a chance to give Ross a round of applause again too. Don't worry, it's his birthday. We need to show him a lot of love, right? But look at that form inside of our reheating furnace. We have a very special window in the back of the furnace. Some of you actually might be able to see this view from your seats if you peer through the furnace. So that is thanks to fused silica. This is a type of glass that melts at around 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit. I was talking earlier about the rich history of glass that we have here in Corning, New York, and that piece of glass is a part of that history. Fused silica was invented here in Corning, New York in 1934 by Dr. Franklin Hyde, and it's still used today not only in our reheating furnaces, but also in some spacecraft shuttle windows and optical fiber because of its purity. That is a wonderful view. They're going to center this piece up. Meanwhile, we've got kind of like an assembly line. They've ladled more glass into our mold. They'll be able to pick this up and glue it with heat to the piece that Ross and George are working on right now. So let's see, the piece that he has finished here are 6 of these tiles fused together with heat. Yeah, 8, is that what I said? 8 tiles, 2, 4, 6, 8. 8 tiles. If I said 6, I meant 8. That's right. Counting by 2s. That's right. All right, 8 tiles. So we've got 1. We need 7 more. I'm right. Yeah. Yeah, so when we're shaping glass in its round form, or we can even make larger newspaper pads if we're working at a scale like this. But the newspaper has to be wet. Oh, that keeps the newspaper from instantly catching on fire. There's a nice cushion of steam that can build up and do a majority of the shaping. A lot of our tools are wet, so we use that cushion of steam to do the shaping. So I have a question, what we're making, maybe we can recap. Can the AV team, can we show one of Fred's finished pieces here and what we're making kind of on one of our monitors or cameras? Just want to get a chance here. Fred is making a component that has a lot of repetition and then fusing these components together to make a larger piece. I mentioned earlier that Fred is a magician, and glass really speaks well to being a magician. He is taking gooey orange molten glass and turning it into this beautiful object that you see at the front of the stage. So he's really creating something from nearly nothing, pulling it out into our reality. There you can see a nice pour of our mold. Thanks to the AV team, we've got a great crew here. They'll do their best to give you all of the action shots. If you want to see something closer, just shout out and let me know. I'm sure we have a lot of people walking in here. Welcome, welcome. We've got Fred Kahl and his team up here on the Hot Glass Show stage, making a larger piece that will end up being around 60 pounds of glass, and it will all be off of the pipe that George and Ross are working off of now. There'll be 8 of these tiles fused together into a more, almost a rounder form here. My name is Heather. If you have any questions, that goes to our live streamers too. Get my attention, a wave, a dance, anything will do, and I'll answer your question for you. All right, so what training did George and Ross have to do this magic? Well, I want to say that everybody up here on the stage has a good amount of experience working with this material. I know Ross has been working with glass for over 15 years. George has been working with glass for over 25 years. And the rest of the team has about the same amount of experience. Yeah, where do you get the experience? Now, in the United States, there's not many factories anymore, so a lot of people find this in college. Yep. So there are about 40 to 50 different colleges in the United States that offer glass blowing. You'll find that a younger generation glass blower has a BFA, or a Bachelor's of Fine Arts. And when you go to college, you get an umbrella of knowledge. You learn how to, you know, in college, they might vaguely talk about chemistry. They talk about we can cold work the glass, we can hot work the glass. You can start to dabble in making your own colors of glass, which is chemistry. You're going to start talking about the engineering side of glass. You can talk about making your own equipment. I helped put together some of the equipment in my old college studio. But yeah, there's a whole world of glass blowing. You don't just have to be a glass blower. You can make your own tools, your own equipment, that type of thing. Yeah. Yeah, the final piece is, it has 8 sides. So you see the texture here. Sided form, an 8-sided form. It will not be functional in the way you wish glass to be functional. You might be able to put a beautiful air plant inside of it and mist it every once in a while if you wanted to, but it will be simply a sculptural form. 8 sides. You can see now that they've put 2 tiles together. Yep, so they're going to put 6 more tiles together and close the form off. It's a light buster, yeah. These guys will have their work cut out for them. They'll be lifting. Yeah. Maybe in the AV team we could show the final piece one more time up here. We have a couple of our guests just walking in. They'd love to see what Fred is working on. We'll get that up on the monitors for you in a little bit. Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. All right. Hello, welcome. Welcome to Corning Museum of Glass. Yeah, question here. This piece right now, thank you, in the AV booth. If you can see on the TV, there's your shot. Perfect, thank you. The final piece will weigh more than 60 pounds. Right now, if you divide that, it's probably a good 15 pounds right now. That's a lot of glass that they're ladling down. The glass is moving, right? So it's hot enough to ebb and flow with whatever direction George is allowing the glass to move. And you know, it's hard enough to turn 15, 20 pounds of molten glass, Well, this is an asymmetrical form. So when that plate is down, all of that weight is pulling on George. He has to work really hard to get it back up and on the top. So it's very important that, that's where a lot of George's experience comes in. George likes to make big pieces of glass, and he simply knows how to turn that using the right muscles in his body. A common question I'm asked is, what is the wear and tear on your body as a glass blower? And a lot of the time it's the lower back, the shoulders, and the forearms. So you can get tennis elbow, that type of thing. Tendonitis is a common thing. You really want to lift with your legs, and be smart about how you're lifting. But yeah, I know a few of the guys go to the gym and lift weights on their downtime. Yeah, important not only to be aware of your body, but aware of the glass as well. The people with the hot glass on the stage, they have the right of way. You're not going to get in between them and the furnace. So it will look like a dance up here to a lot of people. But a lot of these people have worked together for either a long time or they've worked with the material a long enough time to know where to stand, to look at the process, and know exactly what Fred needs to make sure this piece comes out successfully. That's probably one of the best things about working here at Corning Museum of Glass. Anybody from around the world can come and work with our team and make whatever they want to. We have a fabulous team out here at Corning Museum of Glass. So we've had a lot of artists come out and make their wares here. We have special residencies. I'm across the street at the studio where Fred has been doing his residency. He's been casting a lot of glass and making his pieces over there. Not only do they have artists and residencies, but they also have classes. So if you want to come out and take a glass blowing class, the studio is one of the best places to do that in the country, if not the world. Okay. So now we've got 3 pieces. 3 pieces together. Tom just ladled out another piece, and they're popping out bubbles. You can really see them using that high-powered torch. Again, that's oxygen-assisted propane, propane-assisted oxygen. It's a high-powered torch, and they're popping those little bubbles. Fred likes to work with glass because of its ability to transmit light, reflect and refract that light. There is no other material that can do this. Glass is one of a kind when we talk about its properties. And to see it used as, an art piece is really unique. We're in contact with glass every single day. It's on your phone. Yeah. Yeah, how hot is everything? Well, the torch he's using right now is close to 4,000 degrees Fahrenheit. The reheating furnaces run at 2,300 degrees Fahrenheit. That's why we're here, right? 2,300. Our melting furnace is running a little hotter today. Normally, we keep it at 2,100 degrees Fahrenheit, but we've kicked it up because Fred is ladling the glass out of it and pouring it into a mold. So we want it to move around very easily. At 2,100 degrees Fahrenheit, the glass is more like honey. But here now, the glass is a little soupier. It'll really be able to fill in and take the impression of the mold, getting all that beautiful texture. So simply put, everything is hot. Very, very hot. Yeah. You can see Ross here has put on a pair of gloves. He's actually helping George lift the piece up and get it back to the furnace. Remember, we cannot let the glass get below 900 degrees Fahrenheit or those very, very delicate joints, the ones he is using the torch on, can crack and break. I know a few of you are curious. Fred is wearing gloves right now. They're made out of Kevlar. They're fairly thick. So yes, they may get warm, but Fred's hands are protected. Right? So he can go ahead, kind of manipulate these tiles into the form that he wants them to be. And you notice he's using that torch just on the joints because he wants to change the angle that those joints are in. He also has a pair of pie dividers, caliper, if you will, to measure and make sure that the final piece can come together. And we want to work away from the pipe. The glass will get fairly cold. You can never get the glass hot where it's attached to the punty, not too hot where it's going to start moving around, especially when you start to put weight on the piece. You don't want to heat it all the way back to the punty because that weight can distort the shape. So he'll first fix these joints and get them in the angle that he wants, and then he can start to add the other components. We have one poured out here on the table. The whole thing weighs a lot right now. You can see it takes 2 guys to lift this off of the bench, or off of the yoke and onto the bench. I can ask them in a second, but my guess is now 30 pounds or so. Yeah, the tiles are fairly large. They probably weigh about 10 pounds each. Yeah. Yeah. So 2 torches, speeding up the process, getting that joint really, really hot, because they already have a tile over here poured out that Fred will be able to pick up. All right, so here we go, another connection. Now they are tapping these tiles out onto plywood, so you will see flames, but that is all for the show. It's perfect. Nice shot up there by the AV team. Lining it up perfectly. And you know this piece just got a lot heavier. Oh, keep moving around, yep. All right, so a couple questions from our online streamers. Thanks again for tuning in. The first question was, how long will this take to cool down? All glass needs to get annealed over time. It all depends on how thick or thin the piece of glass is. It also depends on how much stress or strain there is between the joints. So he is using a high-powered torch. Those joints are going to be very hot when this piece goes away. So to alleviate the strain, this piece of glass is going to anneal or slowly cool down over a couple of days. So they need to let the glass cool down. Because it is fairly thick, they want it to cool down all at the same rate. So Fred, how long are you going to let this cool down? 3 days, 3 whole days, 72 hours to let this piece cool down. One of the other questions was the significance of the shape. I know from reading a little bit online that Fred really likes taking smaller shapes in glass and then combining them together to make a larger piece. So taking components, adding them together, he likes the repetition and the forms that he can make the glass take. He's also specifically using glass because of its ability to play with light. Any other material cannot do this. I know from looking at Fred online that he does, he has a TED residency. He made a time machine. So that is something to definitely check out online. That Fred talk is actually really, really interesting. He recreated Lunar Park, which was an amusement park opened for the World's Fair in 1901 in Buffalo, New York. He took a stereograph or an old-time picture and replicated Lunar Park in virtual reality. So this is something you can walk around in. I believe he also 3D printed Lunar Park, which it has a fantastic history. Again, there's a lot of stuff for you to look at online with Fred.
Get rid of that and put and stand behind the bench rather than. It's fine because I have to lock,
All right, we're getting there. Adding some pieces. almost all of the doors on our reheating furnace are open. We turned the largest reheating furnace on for Fred. The diameter of this reheating furnace when all of the doors are open is about 36 inches. So a lot of beautiful pieces of glass have been made out of this furnace. To my knowledge, it is one of the largest reheating furnaces on the East Coast. So this will be another one of the largest pieces created here on this stage. We had the gas conference here a couple years ago. They made a life-size sea turtle out of it. Raven Sky River did that. We had another artist named Jaime Guerrero come out. He made life-size children out of that furnace as well. So really, I was not lying when I said that when you come to Corning Museum of Glass, you can make anything with our team. Some really unique pieces of glass have been created here. And it is thanks a lot, not only to the team, but the furnaces that we have here on the stage. We can really accommodate any size piece. I mentioned that this glass will cool down over 72 hours. And any other hot shop, you might find it difficult to make your own work after a piece of glass is sitting in one of your furnaces, taking up space for 72 hours. Here, we are not worried about that. We have 13 other annealers in this space. A few of them a full-grown man can lay down in, so we will never, ever run out of space when it comes to annealing a piece of glass. All right, so welcome. I see a lot of new faces out there. Welcome to Corning Museum of Glass. This is Fred Kahl. We're making one of the pieces that you see up here at the front of the stage. We actually are measuring out one of the tiles he has pre-made. We've got a huge team up here. Ross and George are on the pipe right now. They're really being the muscle behind this piece of glass. We have also got help from Aaron Jack, Bob Sweatergall, Tom Ryder, Jerry, and Constantine. So we got a whole team of people up here on the floor. If you have any questions, get my attention. That goes for the online streamers as well. But again, enjoy the show. All right, so we just saw that. I'm trying to get an idea of where Fred is going with this. But they'll need to ladle another one and replace that. It's perfectly fine. There's nothing to see here. They didn't like that one anyways, says Ross. It's great. All right, so consulting with Fred a little bit. That one ended up being twisted and they didn't like it, so it did end up getting broken off. This piece will be like the form that we have on here. So maybe we can show that one more time. I know there are people who have just joined us. It's hard to see up in the back. We'll get that back up on the monitors. But it will be like this piece here, except larger in scale. You can see it has a few different tiles, a few different sizes. right? So he's nearly made it a third larger than the one that he's completed. The final form again will be closed off, 8 tiles all together. Let me put these down real quick so I don't drop them. I'm sure he likes those, that's why he's kept them. Yeah. Yeah. So once he's done with the piece, once he has it enclosed, remember it's going to have 8 of these tiles here. The punty will come off with a couple drops of water and a tap. So it's just that thermal shock, cooling the glass down and breaking it. Because it's such a weak connection anyways, that's where the glass will break. It only takes a tap on the blowpipe. It's very, very small vibration sent down through the punty, which is on a blowpipe right now, but that's just to accommodate the size of the piece. We needed a larger diameter, a larger punty to act as a handle and hold on to onto a sculptural part. Yeah, so right now the punty and the piece are stuck together because they are the perfect temperature, above 900 degrees Fahrenheit. Anywhere below that, and we won't like it. And it'll be on the floor. Yeah, yeah. Do we have another question? Yeah, it is a weak connection, but it can support the weight because of the size and shape of the punty. And they know from their experience, remember, we've got over 80 years of experience on the stage right now between all of the guys that are up here. They know the temperature of the glass just by looking at it and seeing how it's moving. If that centered tile starts to pivot off of the punty, they know it's hot. Whereas right now it's fairly stable, so it's not going to move around. It's still hot enough to remain attached. It's all about that experience, working with the material and learning through trial and error. And everybody up here on the stage has broken more glass than everybody combined in this entire room. And that's because that's how we learn. We have to learn by making mistakes. I've known glass blowers who've been working with glass or have worked with glass for over 70 years. And they're still learning things about the material. It's constantly challenging them. It's constantly teaching them new lessons. And that's really what makes a good glass blower. If you're not challenging yourself, if you're getting bored with the material, it's time to move on. You always want to be challenging yourself and making sure that you're trying something new each time. No, keep them coming, yeah. Yeah, that's a good question. Am I a glass blower? Yes, I am a glass blower. It really helps to be a glass blower to talk about glass blowing. I can look up here on the stage and know where they are in the process. I could even jump in and help if they really needed it. Yeah. Are there a lot of women glass blowers? And there are. You know, they find that we're really getting into the field. This isn't a career anymore where you have to follow in your father's footsteps. And a lot of women go to college and learn this as an art form. I might say it's about 50-50, if not, maybe even a little more women. Who knows? I would say it's about 50-50 though. So we are getting into it. The great thing, men will do this one way, women will do it another, but we all come together and we can all make a really great piece of glass. So we all have our different ways and techniques, but that goes without saying, all the people up here are going to bring their own path and their own experience to making Fred's work. So you've got all these minds combined and making one piece of glass. It's going to come out successfully, or as successfully as it can be. I don't want to jinx them, knock on wood. But they've got a lot of experience up here. They will be able to handle it. Yeah. Yeah, what's the glass look like before it gets into our furnace and melted down, right? When it comes out of the furnace, it looks like honey. It's soupy, it's runny, it's orange, it's molten. It's a lot like lava because it's as hot as lava. But what it looks like before that, it looks like little tiny ice cubes. So we're using Spectrum Glass System 96, which probably means nothing to you. But it comes to us in little tiny ingots that look like glass ice cubes. That company gets the powdered form of glass. So remember, glass is made out of 3 main ingredients: silica, soda ash, and limestone. Silica is mined from the Earth's crust. Thankfully for glass blowers, it's the most abundant element in the Earth's crust. We can't use beach sand because it's contaminated, crustaceans, metals, other glasses. So it is mined from the Earth's crust. It looks like a powder, almost like flour or powdered sugar. Then they add soda ash, which is like baking soda, looks a lot like baking soda, and pulverized limestone to that. So when the company gets it, it is a lot like flour. They melt it down. We use cullet here because that batch, the fine powdered glass, is horrible for us to breathe. We don't have to wear special equipment to shovel glass back into our furnace. Simply use a scoop, take those glass ice cubes, push them into the same door that we take the glass out of. Yep. And we also remelt all of our clear glass. So that tile that Fred didn't like, he put it in a bucket over here, and we can chuck that back into the furnace and melt it down. Glass blowers are among the first recyclers in man's history, and I will always stress that when you go home, please, please recycle your glass. Because even if they can't melt it back down, they can pulverize it and use it in many different applications. Aggregate and concrete is one of them. It can also be used in asphalt roads. I read an article that said asphalt roads are about 99% recyclable because of the amount of glass within them. And then they're also used as a layer in landfills. So my dad is a waste management engineer. And he's told me they use that layer of glass in landfills to keep it from eroding out the wrong way, aerating it, and making sure it decomposes the correct way. So please, please, please recycle your glass when you go home. Yep. Yeah, is the piece going to stay here? We will put it on display, but the piece is Fred's, and it's up to Fred what he does with the glass. All right. It's up to Fred. We'll see. We'll see what he does. I've got, Fred, a quick question for you. What's your favorite type of torch? What's your favorite type of torch? He doesn't know. A hot one. A hot one. A hot one. That works. Whatever one they have. You can see we have 3 torches up here. I'm sure the question was more specific to what company makes the torches. But Fred just likes hot torches. Here we go. All right, I heard a Jerry, we should do it. So they will be ladling more glass. We have 4 tiles. There are 4 more to complete the form. So we do have a tile up here that Fred has assembled, or I'm sorry, a sculpture that Fred has assembled from these different tiles up here on the stage. I'm not going to pick it up because it is heavy. It weighs over 60 pounds and is smaller than the piece that Fred is making right now with our team. So it looks like the one that is created has a row of 3 on the outer edge. The one that they're creating now has a row of 4 pyramids, making it about 2 inches wider. The tiles are about 2 inches wider off of either side. So this form is coming together, popping out more bubbles. And they'll have another tile ready for them to attach. You can see where Fred is torching. That is where the attachment, Fred and Constantine are both torching those edges on the tile, where they're going to start to complete the form and close it up. Let's give Fred a nice round of applause. He's doing so good. You know what? Fred is doing such a good job. Let's give it up one more time for the team down here. And at the very end of the show, we'll all wish Ross a happy birthday, but we'll save it. Okay. One of the questions online was, did Fred make the molds that he is using? And he did. He designed them on the computer and then with a special CNC machine made them himself. They are made out of graphite, so carved out of graphite, and he did design the mold itself. So Fred doesn't work with glass a lot of the time. I mentioned earlier that he has a TED residency online. This is a YouTube video you can look up, and he went through and rendered Lunar Park, which is an old amusement park that was created in 1901 for the World's Fair in Buffalo. So he put that into virtual reality, and it's something that you can walk through and experience. So he has made a time machine. That's what he calls it. Fred has a really creative background, not only in three-dimensional design, but two-dimensional design. So he likes how technology can play with our reality, taking something he's created with his computer and then bringing it to life in material. And one of the best materials, in my opinion, is glass. So he's taking that. Fred is a magician. All right, so we've got another tile attached. Let's flip it over. Yeah, let's give him a round of applause. Very nicely done. Applying just the right amount of pressure, right? If he torqued too much on that tile, he could rip the whole thing off of the punty. So although it looks like he's using a lot of force, he knows just how far he can push that force onto the material without ripping it right off the punty that George and Ross are hauling around. Making it look very, very easy, but I can guarantee you it is not. Fred, the question was, has he ever made this scale or this size piece before? And no, he has not. So this is the biggest scale that Fred has worked with. But, like I said, he's got one of the best teams here at Corning Museum of Glass. He'll be able to pull it off. Very good. Using those Kevlar gloves. And remember, we want that seam to be nice and strong, so the glass is hotter. It will move around a little bit. If he doesn't like it, he can always break it off and try a new tile. Wow, look at that. Getting it back to the yoke like it's nothing. We like working these 2300s. It's a little more like working in our shop at home. Typically, glassblowers don't talk to a crowd when they're working. So I really like to allow you to enjoy watching a team work, kind of listening to them communicate, listening to the music, and enjoying the show. So again, if you have any questions, get my attention. But I'll go ahead and let you just watch this amazing material being transformed. All right, how's everybody doing? Enjoying the show? Yeah? It's a great opportunity. I mean, we don't really get to see this material like this a lot of the time. You know, even though glass is in your life daily, it's in your cell phones, it's in your buildings, your glasses, you look through it. It's great to see it transform. Don't worry about it. It's a question. Yeah, so the glass is getting poured into the mold straight out of the furnace. Right now it's 2,275 degrees Fahrenheit when they're pouring it down into it. It's hot enough to emit its own light. It's just a little hotter than lava, or around the same temperature. You notice that the glass is changing color, or it's losing a lot of that orange light. It's because it's losing a lot of the temperature. It's losing a lot of the heat. Yeah. Yeah, so the piece that he threw out before, one of the tiles, we do have it in a special bucket. That'll get broken down and tossed back into the furnace. So yeah, we always want to make sure we recycle that glass because, remember, it can be used for a lot of different things. Yeah, yeah, very good. We can take the clear glass and put it back into our furnace, but the colored glass, if we were using color for this project, we would not melt that down because it could change the chemical composition of the glass inside of the furnace It would also leave strands of different colors. We like to start off with clear. That way we can add whatever color we want it to be. I am a big fan of clear glass. There is simply nothing like it. I know a lot of people love that rich cranberry color. Stained glass, of course, is beautiful, but no other material can play with light like glass can, especially when it's clear. Some of the most beautiful forms in our museum are clear glass. We just refurbished the Crystal City Gallery, homage to our history and why Corning, New York is called the Crystal City. There are some phenomenal pieces of lead crystal glass that have been cut up there. They are all clear, but the way the light refracts and bounces out of it creates rainbows that you just wouldn't believe. If you need some glittery glass in your life, you need to go see that exhibit because the sparkles are endless up there. Yeah, it's really a wonderful material. Now, this glass and its ability to play with light is why Fred is using this material. Fred doesn't normally work a lot with glass. I've mentioned a few times that he works more two-dimensionally, and then taking that imagery off of the computer and then translating it into reality. So we can take virtual reality and translate it into our reality. And he's using this beautiful glass to showcase his design. So again, Fred did design the molds. He used a special CNC machine to sculpt them out of graphite. And that graphite mold is what they're pouring the molten glass into. Now this part of the process, the piece becomes a puzzle. Making sure you heat the glass in the right spot where you want it to move. Trying to bring those two edges together. There are 6 tiles. That means there needs to be 2 more applied to the piece. This is where things can get a little stressful, right? Making sure the rest of the piece is warm and happy enough to survive, but then putting these components together and making sure that they match up. We have a lot of scientific questions happening on our live streaming event. These are questions that I cannot answer more specifically for you, but we do have a wonderful research team here at Corning Museum of Glass. You can ask a librarian at the Fred Kahl Research Library. It is one of the largest libraries devoted solely to glass. So if you just have a burning question and need to know, I definitely direct you to the Fred Kahl Research Library. We also have a chief scientist. Boy, I wish she was here now because these questions are great and she would love to answer them. Yes, thank you for your questions, though. Welcome to those of you on our live stream. And here at Corning Museum of Glass, we have Fred Kahl working on a design, forcing the glass into just shapes that I have never seen before. Really doing an amazing job sculpting this wonderful and unique object. I know it doesn't seem like it, but the surfaces that are on the outside of the piece right now are flat. All of the texture is pointed inwards. The texture that you are seeing is the light refracting through the material, really showcasing the property that Fred wanted to use for his sculpture. And we've got some great shots up there from the AV team. right, so they really want to make sure that these tiles are lined up. As the piece becomes more complete, they'll need to make sure that they have room to accommodate each tile that they're putting on. They don't want to close up the space too soon, because you can see already that those tiles are fairly stuck in place. They're too cold to move around. Fred is going to have to take that torch and really focus a lot of heat on those joints that he wants to move around. So as this piece becomes larger and larger, it not only becomes more difficult to turn and lift off of the bench and put it back into the furnace, but Fred's job as the designer becomes more difficult. He has to make sure he has that space to work with. Doesn't want it closed up too soon. In our piece down here at the stage, we can see here that he's done a great job at lining up these components. Really getting the points together, making sure that they're nice and even. All right, so now I know you're dying to wonder what they're doing. The punty, this is where I was mentioning how important the heat is. The punty cannot get enough heat to stay hot enough and remain attached. It is the last piece of glass into the furnace and the first bit of glass out of the furnace. A couple seconds of heat really, really matter at this point. That punty starts to cool down, it can crack off and chip, and we lose stability and control over the piece. Now they took some fresh molten glass and wrapped it over the punty itself. Now they're soaking that heat back into the punty, just really ensuring that the piece remains connected. The torches help at this point, but really, the fresh glass pulled out of the furnace is the hottest thing that we can get. Remember, the furnace is at 2275, 2,275 degrees Fahrenheit. It's running a little hotter, so we can use that to our advantage. We have a question from our online streamers, if any fumes come off of the glass. If we get the glass hot enough, we can start to burn off that soda ash or the flux that's added into it. Different colors of glass can give off fumes too, depending on what metal is used to colorize them. There are fumes that can come off of the furnace, but again, we are working out of a state-of-the-art facility. There is a giant hood that is sucking up all of the air from the hot shop floor, putting it through filters, and then tossing it outside. So we are above and beyond compliance with OSHA standards. Everyone up here is following safety requirements. We've all got face protection on, protecting our eyes. We only have 2 eyes, and they're both very, very important when you're working with glass. Everyone has closed-toed shoes on. You can see a lot of the guys who are shaping the glass with their hands have mitts on, made out of Kevlar. So we're all wearing the correct PPE or personal protective equipment. It's very, very important. While I have been off of the mic, I've been trying to let you appreciate the communication that the team has up here. You know, really communicating where everybody is, where everybody has to be in order to make the piece successfully. Very good. All right, how are we doing in questions in the amphitheater here? I know you've got some. Yeah, the mold is made out of graphite. These molds are special as well. Fred made them. He designed them in a computer, so in technology land, and then he's recreated them with a CNC machine. Yeah, graphite really disperses the heat well. It's not like metal where it's going to heat up and stick to the glass. Some of you may have noticed that the glass has stuck inside of the mold a couple of times, but with a couple of taps, that graphite is great at releasing the glass from inside of it. The estimated weight, the one that is created already on the far left of the stage was 60 pounds. This one is the largest that Fred has ever made, so I'm guessing it's going to be closer to 70 or 80 pounds when it's complete. It is about, so these tiles have 4 diamonds on the very outer edge. The one that weighs 60 pounds has 3 diamonds on the very outer edge. So it looks like they've gained about an inch all the way around each tile. It will be quite a bit heavier. Yeah, it looks like it looks like twice as big, doesn't it? Maybe we can try and pull up that finished object one more time for those of you who haven't seen us. I know I see a lot of new faces down here in the amphitheater hot shop. We'll get you a closer look at one of Fred's finished pieces. There it is. Beautiful shot. Yeah, beautiful. Doesn't do it justice. After the show, go on down there, take a closer look, be able to talk with the artists and the rest of us on the hot glass team. Any other questions while I'm getting my steps in? Very good. I'll just go around the amphitheater hot shop. If you've got a question, get my attention. Just stretch my legs a little bit. Also, for those of you on our live stream, you can ask us questions as well. They will get relayed to me, and I'll answer them to the best of my ability. Welcome. Hi. Question? Oh, I'm floating around. Here I am. All right, so we're getting another tile attached. It's been poured out onto our plywood paddle. It's waiting attachment here. We do need it the right temperature. So here it goes, one of the final pieces. Lining it up just right. It is magic. What do you all think? That is right. If it sticks in the wrong spot, it is stuck there for good. Once Fred attaches that, yes, he could break it free. He could torch that away, but it probably might leave a little scar mark. Something that, yeah, it'd leave a mark there. It'd leave a little scar. That would be right. Great crowd we have here in the amphitheater hot shop. I hope you're all enjoying the show out there in our live streaming world of the internet. All right, so it looks like we will be going. Oh, look at the guys go. Yeah, let's give them another round of applause. Fred, how much do you think this piece is gonna weigh? 60 to 65 pounds. I don't know, do you all believe him? This looks pretty heavy to me. We'll have to weigh it. Again, this will be on display here at the museum. It is up to Fred with whatever he wants to do with it. It's heavier? Jerry thinks it's heavier. It looks like it's heavier to me. You know, we've got Ross helping George lift the pipe up. We've got, what is that now, 7? 7 tiles? We're going for the 8th? Yeah. This is one of the tiles that they're using. Let's see. It's a lot heavier than this even. So I don't know. I could probably do a few reps with this. It's pretty neat, isn't it? Did you see the other side? It's flat and soft. Yeah. And we've got the texture side on the other side. Yeah, come on down. I'll let you touch the glass. You will not get another chance. No rushing, no, just walk if you want to touch it. Yeah. It is soda lime glass, yep. COE 96, Spectrum Nuggets. Yeah, it's good. You can see that texture. Okay. Smooth on one side, textured on the other. Yeah, and the mold makes it textured. So this is how they pour it into the mold. And the glass is so beautiful, it puddles like water. You know, and it smooths and cools itself down on the outside. We've got that beautiful texture. We're getting another tile. We'll get one more tile. Look, all the adults are too shy to come touch the glass. Yeah, look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Very beautiful. Future glass blowers of America, right there. All right. So this tile, I've been holding it for a little while now. Probably weighs about 5 pounds. They've got 7 tiles. Yeah. 7 tiles that weigh over 5 pounds each. So we're close to about 40 or 50 pounds right now of molten hot glass, not molten. They'll get ready to ladle the last tile here. Yeah, you can really see how the graphite shapes the glass. Isn't it beautiful? Yeah.
George of the jungle!
George of the jungle is right. Let me get the other side. Isn't it? There is nothing like glass. You are seeing it formed into a one-of-a-kind piece right now. You know, that really is what makes our demonstration so special. Look at that. You will never, ever get to experience this again unless you follow Fred around the world. Careful on the stairs, folks. Careful on the stairs. See the other side? Yeah. Pretty. Looks like ice cubes. That is right. I was asked if this was plastic, and you know what? I do not think plastic could be as beautiful. There is no plastic that I know of that can reflect the light. Even this, you know, I'll just be Vanna for a second. Really shines. Oh, Ross. Oh, yeah, one more, huh? Soft. You're welcome. Oh, thank you. There's a great shot of the mold. Here we go, pouring in some more. Look at that material. Very nice pour. Yeah. You know, it's as unique as a snowflake, too. There we go.
Oh no, they got bigger.
So getting this all together, this is the final tile. So if you want to hold your breath right now, I will not blame you for a single second. It's becoming heavier and trickier to move around, to line that tile up. It's got to be just right. Oh yeah, Ross and George really hauling that glass around. You know, if you like what you see, do not be shy to show them some love. They're working very hard. There we go. Look at this, 3 edges now that have to be heated up and then lined up perfectly with that final tile. It is really coming together here at Corning Museum of Glass. Again, this is not an object I have seen, or I would argue anyone else has seen. This is really a one-of-a-kind piece. We have poured the final tile. Now it's just about getting that heat perfect, lining it up, and fitting it right down into that space they've left. All right, while we wait for the tile, this is a good opportunity for questions. Remember, this is the final tile. Once it is on and in the placement that Fred wants, this will rest in an annealer for 72 hours or 3 full days, cooling down to room temperature. 3 whole hours. Woo-wee. That is a lot of glass. No, real close though. We're getting there. One more tile. One more tile. You can see how well the team is managing the temperature of the glass. It is still on the punty, even though there is over 50 pounds of glass off the end of it. It is such a delicate, precarious connection. You notice that they're using all of their muscle just not to slam it right down onto the yoke or the bench. They're gently setting it down on either surface, making sure not to vibrate or put any force down the punty that it's attached to.
Try to be as square onto it as possible so we transfer all.
Nicely lifted and set down.
Real slow, real slow.
Hearing George ask them to turn really slow. This keeps the glass from flaring out. It also allows Fred to really saturate that edge with a lot of heat. But we have a lot of tools up here, and not only are the torches tools, but that punty can be a tool. If they turn too fast, the edges can start to flare out, and then they won't be able to fit that tile into the space. So turning very slow is very, very important at this point. Here it comes. Here's the final tile, like a very hot pizza. Face shield is down. All right, here we go. Wait for it. Wait for it. All right, I think it's in there. What do you all think? Fred will hydrate. Good idea. I like how it got audibly quieter as we were putting that last piece in here at the amphitheater hot shop, letting Fred concentrate. It's a little bit like a golf course when he goes up for that final move. Oh, look at that beautiful form in our furnace. Taking a nice long heat. They were out of that furnace for quite a while. We want to make sure that, that punty stays connected. So very, very important, especially now that the form is almost done. I say almost done because it will take 3 days to cool down to room temperature. All right. So this piece will be on display. I believe we even put up a picture of it when it's done online. I mentioned we have live streaming events all year long. We'll have guest artists here. We will put our hot shop into your living room if you click on our live streaming page. So make sure you check us out, Corning Museum of Glass live stream. You can join us during these special events. All right, look at all of that muscle they're using. truly amazing. Question. What would something like this sell for? You know, I do not know what Fred prices his work at, but I'm sure it would be a very pretty penny for this piece of glass. Yeah, I simply cannot put a price on it. To me, it is priceless. This is a one-of-a-kind piece. I've stressed that so much. You will not see another piece like this created, maybe even in your lifetime. This is really, really a treat to watch all these components being put together. I know there are probably artists out there working with glass in a very similar manner, but probably not to this scale. This is a huge piece of glass. When we talk about the price of handmade glass, you know, there is a big overhead when you're looking at handmade glass, whether it's in Walmart or Target. TJ Maxx has some handmade glass, but only about 3% of the glass that you see in these markets is handmade. Most of the time, you'll find more handmade glass in garage sales, you know, in your neighborhood. All right, let's get it over there. Beautifully done. Back into the furnace. Yeah, you know what? They really deserve some love. Let's give them another round of applause. We'll get a lot of water going here after the show. That is a heavier piece of glass than just 60 pounds. And I only know that because I'm watching George and Ross haul this thing around, and they are using every muscle in their body and probably making it look a lot easier than somebody who hasn't worked with glass for as long. Yeah, very good. All right, so we can breathe for a little bit. I know we've got a few annealers up. Fred has only this time now to shape the glass and get it into its final form. This is a piece that you wouldn't want to reheat or try to fix when it's cold. This is a form that you want to do it all when it's hot. There is no moving those joints around once this glass is room temperature. It would be better to make a brand new piece than try and alter this glass once it's cold. If you wanted to reheat this piece of glass, you'd have to do it at a very, very slow rate, pick it back up onto a punty, and by then you've risked all of this work that they've put into the final piece. Yeah, just some amazing, amazing optical qualities in this glass. It's flattening it out. So these are the wooden paddles I was talking about earlier, made out of cherry wood. Those are dry, that's why you see sparks out of them. But cherry wood is an amazing shaper. It's a hardwood, so it burns away nice and evenly. And it doesn't burn away as quickly as a wood like pine might. Pine also has a lot of resin and pitch content. It would leave dirty, ugly, scuzzy marks on the surface of this beautiful clear glass. So cherry wood is a nice, clean, burning wood. Yeah, the question was, are they going to break it off of the punty the usual way? And yes, I believe so. This piece, of course, once cooled down, would not look quite as beautiful with a 5-foot pole sticking off the side of it. So they will break it off. They may use a couple drops of water to further weaken the connection. They may just use the cold edges of a tool but that cooler temperature will shock the glass and break it at its weakest point, which we will all hold our breaths and pray that it is the punty that is the weakest point. Yeah, right now they can try and manually even out the temperature throughout the entire piece so that it cools down at the same rate. However, in our annealers, we'll run a soaking cycle. So it will soak the piece of glass in its entirety to about 905 degrees Fahrenheit. And then it will cool down over those 3 days. There's a few strain points that it stops at and soaks the glass once more before it drops down to a cooler temperature. For our glass, it'll hold at 910 for a little bit, 720, 550, around 300, and then go down to room temperature very slowly. We will not even open the annealer doors probably until that annealer readout is around 80 degrees Fahrenheit or close to room temperature. Because a piece like this that has been put together with extreme heat and cold glass and different thicknesses all around is under a lot of strain already. And I would hate to be the person to open up the annealer door and ruin all of this work. So it'd be in our advantage to leave those annealer doors closed until around 80 degrees Fahrenheit, if not a little cooler. Now we can see the glass has stopped glowing orange. Well, at least on our monitors. It still has an orange tint to it down here. Very important to communicate. All right, they're getting ready. Yeah, just really trying to even out those temperatures. You can see them gesturing. You know, glass blowers not only communicate with our voices, but we can also communicate with our hands, right? So pushing, cutting, paddling, they all have meanings to us in the hot shop. So they may even go through and start to push the form a little farther. But remember, if they want to move the form around, now is the time to do it. They have all the tiles assembled together. They can start to push those tiles around and get it just right. All right, even though this glass will look like it's room temperature when they go to break it off of the punty, remember it is still around 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit, that 900 degree Fahrenheit mark, because it's in one piece. If this is not in one piece, it is too cold and it won't survive. All right, so we have Fred Kahl here. He's been a visiting artist, guest artist here at Corning Museum of Glass over at our studio for the past month or so. And he's made a lot of really unique forms like you see at the front of the stage. This is in its final form right now. We have 8 large tiles, all fused together with heat, all fused together by hand, picked up out of the mold, and then put together in this larger object. He's flattening it off a little bit. I see Tom, it looks like, over in the corner. And it might seem counterproductive that Tom is putting on all of this clothing because it seems like it's hot up on the stage. But this clothing will act as a barrier between him and this 1,000 degree Fahrenheit piece of glass. He's actually cooler by putting on more clothing than he would be if he were to walk up to this in short sleeves. He's putting on some extra gloves. There is a lot of radiant heat coming off of this glass right now. It really looks like it's room temperature up on our monitors, but we all know that it is not. stop, turn, stop, turn. You can hear him talking up there on the stage. I can see Ross's gloves smoking right now. And he's only just shielding Jerry's hand on the torch. We can tell that there's a lot of radiant heat coming off the piece. We've got our fireman's jacket on. Can pop those. We've got some air conditioning vents that we might pop down. Maybe so they're not in the way.
I was going to do two first. I guess I should wear the other one, eh? Yeah.
Fred is going to suit up too. Yeah, we'll move this. Get all the cords out of the way. Terrible to trip over a gas cord right now with this piece of glass in your hands. I'm going to help out with the doors. We'll get some nice gloves for Tom here. Make sure he's all suited up. Let's see. All right. All right, we're getting down to it. One more flash. Is everybody ready? Yeah. Tom and Fred are all dressed up in their favorite outfits. Talking about where to place their hands. How to place it down. We're on the very last flash. The very last second, the very last flash is normally where it counts. I think that's a great photo opportunity with Fred and Tom ready to go. Astronauts, very fitting for this lunar themed piece. Watching the movement of the glass is very important. They don't want to put it away too hot. It can start to deform inside of the annealer. All right, George is giving the go-ahead. Here we go. Let's give it up for the team. All right, come on, that was a lot of hard work. Let's give it up one more time, Fred Kahl. All right, one more time for the team. Jerry, Constantine, Ross, Aaron, George, Tom, Bob. What a wonderful piece of glass. Yes!